Hello, hello. Welcome to another great streaming that we have here at CodeSandbox organized for you. And today, more than ever, I'm very, very proud of the topic and very excited to explore it more as we are going to talk about the state of cloud development environments. And as you know, I'm Ioana, engineer manager at CodeSandbox, and I'll be joined today by one of our founders, Yves van Hoorne, the head of growth that we have, Stephen Williams, and two external guests that were so kind to join us today, Manuel Alonso Rodriguez, which is a product owner and a senior software engineer, and also Steve Tingiris, founder at Dabble Lab. Uh, the challenge today to commute from Stephen to Steve, bear with me there. But yes, as we are from all over the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. For those sleeping, wake up, it's time for a great chat. And how better to start than to see how our guests feel about the CDE report. As a small context, before we run it, and we had more than 200,000, 2,200 replies, somewhere more around that. I think you can follow all the results we have in the report, and for sure we're going to share it both during our call and also later at the end of our chat in the notes that we share later. So this survey run, as I mentioned, through among lots and lots of developers in different roles, from engineer managers to maybe even designers, from juniors to seniors. How did you feel about the report while answering them? Whenever Manuel or Steve, you want to reply first, as you are the ones that literally taken, and after that I'm going to jump to the creators of the report.
Yeah, no, the report, I think that it was a really good insight on the current state. We really know that this is a somewhat new form of developing, and really seeing that people are starting to use it and be more open to it. I really thought that it was pretty nice.
Any different insights from your side, Steve?
Yeah, no, I agree with all of those points. I was also personally interested in a lot of what we've been looking at in terms of like how we're going to incorporate cloud development environments, at least in our workflow. It has to do with incorporating AI agents into some of the development steps. And we believe that cloud development environments are going to really open up lots of possibilities for us in that regard. So I was happy to see some of the feedback and anxious to learn before I got the report what others are doing in those areas as well.
That's nice to know. That's nice to know. Stephen or Ives, any opinions on your side when you created and after seeing the results that we gathered?
Yeah, I mean, from our side, the reason that I think we sat down and looked at doing this report was there wasn't really much out there about CDEs to explain what they are, how they're being perceived in the market. I think this Gartner report kind of set off a bit of a starting trigger for businesses to start thinking about, okay, could we actually outsource all of this really expensive server cost and put it into a cloud development environment and allow for people to kind of collaborate and work together in that. And that was kind of where a lot of the questions came from, was really just understanding not only how could this be used as it becomes more mature as a market, but actually and a technology, but as well for how businesses want to accept this at the moment. How much are they willing or are thinking about this at the moment? And that was kind of the idea behind the report in the first place, to give the market at least an understanding about what they are, how people are looking at them at the moment. And our goal is to run this every year, by the way. We want to keep running this and preparing as it starts to grow.
You hear it here first time. This is the tradition that we build up here at CodeSandbox. Our yearly report will go live next year too. And by the way, if you're wondering what is Stephen talking about the Gartner article, if you go on codesandbox.io/blog, you will see an article shared between Felipe and Stephen and Tamas in writing it, where they mention these research. And maybe it's also good for you to have the whole insight where we started with this idea to develop the report in the first time. Full of resources and also 2-3 opinions from both Felipe, our head of marketing, and Stephen, who's in the call. And I think Tomasz too, our data person. But yeah, I think it's better to check it out for yourself and don't take what I say for granted. Okay, let's dig in then. First insight that we took out from the report was the state of AI, meaning how people feel about it. And honestly, I'm between also surprised and not so much. I did run a similar question in one of my talks, and to my surprise, it was a really good balance between personal and professional work, and a lot of users use it. So, any really big surprises for any of you when we saw the results on AI being used as part of the company's tooling? Especially the amount of time that we use. I mean, not us, they, the reporters.
I can weigh in on that.
Go.
I was not surprised. I mean, I've been writing code for a long time, and it didn't take long to realize that most people are going to be using AI to write code going forward. I mean, it just, yeah, I've been coding for 30 plus years, and the models are better at writing code in 2 years than the previous 30 years that I've spent doing it. So it seems like that's just a logical progression to that's the way we're going. And so I was expecting that more and more people are using those. But it's nice to see the data come back.
That's true. Also, nobody, I mean, they decrease in terms of users, so nobody is literally replaced by AI yet. We'll see next year in the survey how that pops up. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think a bit on. Sorry, Ives,
you go first.
Okay. I think a bit on what Steve mentioned. I think that right now we've had AI for some time, but now we are seeing it being implemented on really or day to day, and we are right now at the start, I guess. So we have the technology. We have we've seen that it's powerful, that it can do a bunch of stuff, but we need to be careful also on how do we implement it and how we integrated it on our day to day.
Yeah, I also, maybe, I'm not saying that this is the case, but maybe some of the developers also pounded a lot the, I wouldn't say legality, because hopefully everything they do in their work is legal, but some companies still struggle to understand how they can integrate AI and how they position their software engineers working with AI. I think it's still an ongoing debate for some companies. And I saw a bit progress around here on my side of the world in Europe, where they even start working more intensely on the laws related to this. So probably companies will have a bit more, be more brave to adopt them going into next year more. Ives, you wanted to also add some words?
Yeah, for me at least, AI has been already a huge productivity boost. And I'm mostly interested in how it is implemented. Like, what is the user experience behind it? Because, for example, one of the first applications of AI in coding was Copilot, and I still think that's a genius way to approach it, because you're integrating yourself already into the workflow of the developer. Like, they can install it and they will automatically get these suggestions. And I also noticed I started to learn how to interact with Copilot after I was using it for a while. Like, at some point, I even started writing comments. If I was lazy, I wrote a comment like, "How do you do this?" And then I saw the autocomplete come in from Copilot. And it's interesting to see now that at this point we're starting to see new applications with different providers, like Codium, for example, also Copilot Chat. Cursor is also very interesting. Like, how can we give it more context and more information? So I think there are still a lot of applications and user experiences to explore with coding AI, but we've already seen a lot of benefits from what we have today, which is super interesting because it feels like that is just the tip of the iceberg.
100% true. And the CodeSandbox Insights moment, Boxy, our first AI bot, started as a flexible Friday project from Ives. And after that, everyone enjoyed working with it, so we made it official. And I want to add a note that for those that are not necessarily only to software engineering, I do understand that most engineers use Copilot before this year's hype around ChatGPT, and I think that's why it's funny to have a seat in all these chat, knowing that yes, you can block ChatGPT in some companies, but people were using Copilot before. ChatGPT just brought more audience in terms of non-tech related people, so that's why it's so famous. But the availability or the range of tools that there are there, it's definitely larger. Let's roll into the next insight or code. Our code base is growing faster than computing advances. How you feel about the results? Where we have, it's kind of divided. Medium has the most answers, and though I will say the strongly agree side has a bit more answers or a bit more opinions on that side. Anyone surprised by this?
Yeah, for me, I was not surprised because all of these years that I've been working on software engineering, it always happens that once the code starts to grow, usually we get slow testing, slowed machine work, let's say, and the company has to update our computers. So this is the key thing that also I strongly agree about, that it really is starting to get more and more complex, and we need to update and update and update, and yeah.
100% true. I'm still surprised when I go into some meetings, even external, and I hear the fan of the laptops going louder than the person speaking. How it was from you, Ives? Any surprises on this
Yeah,
one? I also
I don't
go ahead.
think for me there's not a really it's not a big surprise. I also think that the more people work, if more people work on a code base, will also get quite complicated quite fast. Like someone might need a different native dependency, or someone else wants to update a version, and that is not even related to how big the code base is, but to how big the team is. And if you're running it on your local machine, if you're running it on your laptop, everyone has to maintain their own development environment. So if one person adds like a native dependency, then every other developer will have to install that native dependency. And we have a lot of solutions. A lot of people have been working on different solutions to pack an environment into a reproducible environment. But you still have to install those changes and apply those changes on every machine, which is a challenge. And it's also, I think it shows why the bigger companies, they have all moved to using a cloud development environment where you have to maintain one development environment and people can use it. Like you assign the responsibility of maintaining that development environment to one person, and the rest of the team can use that environment.
Yeah, really. Thanks for adding those details indeed. I also want to mention from an organizational point of view that it probably is one of the questions that was skipped the most in the survey by people, and I kind of read there a bit of a fear or a bit of not being confident to reply to it that much. I think Ives literally pointed on this about, so we're gonna go ahead to see the next insights from the survey. What are the key advantages of using a cloud development environment? And how much do you agree with the statement working on a CDE improves development productivity? Honestly, this made my little engineer heart to jump around when I saw people really believe that a CD improve development productivity. Were you among those that strongly agreed with this, Manel or Steve?
From my side, yes. I really think that the ease of use and all of it, that it's just a browser, that you can access it. It's accessible. It's super cool, and also the fact that most of us will know that what's the pain of setting up a computer for a new colleague, or the onboarding. Those hours that we spend on fixing problems, maybe they installed a wrong Node version or whatever. It's hours that you will get back. So yeah, I strongly agree.
I'm glad to have to hear that, and yes, it brought me so many memories when you mentioned helping others to onboard or bypass some challenges, and all that back and forth talk. Where are you? Did you do that? How was that? Definitely are fixed by such things.
I think when we look at it as well, and what developers are looking for at the moment is as what Manel said, it's getting that time back, and that's probably where everyone sees this advantage at the moment. And when we talk to customers and people just testing out CodeSandbox CDE at the moment, what we see a lot of is just this: okay, I can just share this really quickly with someone rather than having to rebuild a whole environment. And that in itself is actually a big pain within that role. Hey, the developer that I'm working with in APAC compared to the machine that is completely different in the US, it's a very frustrating thing. But what's really great to hear is like how somebody could actually develop on a Chromebook the same as they could on an i9 machine. And this really brings another level of speed in development processes. And then as well, collaboration, because if everyone's working in those same environments, CDEs really kind of help that team move much faster. So this is not really a surprise, I think, once people understand what a CDE does and how it can do it as well.
I would add something in addition for us that CDEs enable is the ability to test new frameworks. I mean, the number of new tools that are coming out, it's like a fire hose, especially with the AI stuff nowadays. And to be able to quickly say, hey, is this framework a better fit for the project or faster or whatever than this framework, without having to retool and spin up a local environment with all of the configurations that are necessary to answer that question. Should we use Rust? Should we use Python? Should we use Go? Whatever. You can do that in minutes. I mean, literally with cloud development environments, and you just can't do that with local environments.
And I'll step in to say that, sorry, just a small intervention. I do want to mention that as being the December month with Advent, we literally run on Advent calendar on templates, and you can see how diverse our framework support and templates are. Check all of our social media. You should be able to see there. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was also thinking there are also two advantages of using a CDE that I think people who haven't used a CDE would be surprised by. And one is that you can run multiple environments. I first noticed this when I was at Facebook, where we also were running all our development in the cloud. I saw another developer who had 3 different CDEs running at the same time. And they would make a change in one, and then they had to run tests again. So they had to wait 3 minutes. So in those 3 minutes, they switched to the second CDE, which was running at the same time, and they started to work in there. And then they switched to the third whenever they had to wait, which was funny because it's a new way of working. It's kind of unexpected. But you can do these things. You could also, in this case, for example, you could be working on a feature, and if someone asks you to fix a bug, you can spin up a new environment without affecting the environment that you're building your feature in. You don't have to do the git stash, git checkout, npm install, those kind of things to switch. You can spin up a new environment so that you can keep the old one running and return to it later in the exact state that it was in. I think that's a big advantage that I also initially didn't expect when using. I didn't think of it when starting to use it. And the second one is in terms of accessibility. A lot of when you have tooling like Figma Figma is a good example. A lot of users of Figma are not designers. But since designers share their work with Figma to other people also use Figma to comment and to collaborate. And development environments are inherently inaccessible. Like if you want to get feedback from a designer on what you're building on your website, for example, you will have to deploy it to staging, or you will have to deploy it to production, or you will have to ask the designer to install a development environment. But by running it in the cloud, running it in a CDE, you can share a link with them, and they can see immediately what you're working on. They can give feedback even, and you can update it live without having to redeploy, and they can give more feedback. So another advantage that we're noticing with the CDE is that it also makes development itself more accessible for other members of the team, non-developers even. So yeah, those are two unexpected
and we
advantages.
do have a story on our blog about this, how our product owner, head of product, and marketing person and designers all contributed while using CodeSandbox. And I think Felipe, the marketing person we have, literally has a really, really green GitHub there with all his commits while using CodeSandbox as a platform. So really good job there on the accessibility side. And thanks for adding this important point, Ives. Going further, I am not saying, okay, we had to have the glitch, the karma of all the live streaming should attack us a bit, but we're surviving it. Want to mention the challenges, but as you see, some of them are mentioned here in pretty much similar ranges. I'm curious if there is any surprises, but in the same time, considering the challenges, we are matching these questions to evaluate completely a cloud development environment, and was literally curious which is for you, both personal and if you want as an organization point, which is the most important thing that makes a CD stand out. They are the same like before. The options. Manel, I think as both a product owner and your senior engineer work personally, you have a preference around them. Which one would be?
Do you mean on these options here?
Yeah, if it's not included there, because we do have the little other there, you can mention it too. And we'll take notes to edit next year.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned before, that I really think that one of them is the ease of use and the straight to the point that you can just, as mentioned, open a link and have everything already there. I would go for that option. Also, a quick thing that I wanted to mention also on the challenge part, that I noticed that when I explain CDEs to some people, they used it before, and it tends to stand out that the initial stage that it was, so it made a big impact when it released, when the new technology came up, and it was slow, it was kind of laggy, it had a bunch of problems. And I really think that those people that still think that this is this way still need to check it out and need to see by themselves how it has evolved and the state that it's currently right now. And I think that they would be pretty much surprised on how fast it goes now and how cool it has become. So, yeah.
You go.
I was going to comment on my interest, or at my company, a big part of what we've been interested in and focused on is some of the advanced capabilities, more specifically like AI integration. We see our workflows in code pipelines evolving to include AI as a first-class citizen in terms of like how we interact and distribute tasks. There's tasks that require a human in the loop, but there's tasks now more and more that AI can just do. And AI doesn't have a laptop, or at least not the ones that we're working with. So they they need some way of writing the code, spinning the code out, testing the code, integrating the code. And so code interpreters and how they're going to fit into a development and continuous integration pipeline is what we're most interested in. So I guess that's the fourth thing on the list.
Oh, indeed.
That's really interesting.
And yeah. Anything you want to add, Ives?
One thing that I found interesting in the slide before is that one thing that people think about is cost of a CDE, which is very understandable because if you look at the biggest companies that are running a CDE on their own, they keep a CDE running for a pretty long time, even if you don't use it. Like you could stop using an environment and then they keep it running for like between half an hour or 4 hours, because the moment that they shut down the environment, when you come back, you will have to wait for it to spin up again because it needs to start from the operating system, and that is a challenge. But that's also, I wanted to highlight with that this is one of the things that we've tried to really differentiate on a technological level with CodeSandbox, because we support snapshotting and hibernating virtual machines. Similar to if you would close your MacBook and you would open it later on, it will continue exactly where you left off. We do the same with the development environments that run on CodeSandbox. Like we persist the memory and we persist the disk. We snapshot both. So at CodeSandbox, when you have been inactive for like 5 minutes, we already hibernate the VM and don't run it anymore. And the moment that you come back, we resume that VM within 2 seconds, and it will continue exactly where you left off. And that is one of the, I think that is one of the key technologies that make it more accessible to use a CDE from a cost perspective as well.
Yes, and good mention there. Another resource is where you can learn how we process things so fast. Is Ives' blog on running restarting the VM in the 2 seconds. And I think it's already linked in the video, or if not, we'll add it at the end of the call. Okay. Any advice for team considering implementing a CD in 2024?
I think one of the things where we're talking to a lot of businesses at the moment that are considering putting a CDE in place for next year, a lot of them have a lot of big dreams about getting everybody on board with it. And the smart move is to start small. There's a reason a developer likes a local environment. It's because it's their space, they built it. And trying to migrate everybody onto something that is standardized could be quite jarring. One of the things the team have built into CodeSandbox, as an example, is actually integrating VS Code into the browser as well. This is something that we listen to the teams saying, like, hey, well, I don't want to change from VS Code. I want to have all my my hot buttons that I can use and quick links and so forth. So we have to change our product to listen to the customers. But when you're implementing an environment like this, it is very new. And it does still need some setup to get it right and to make sure it can get through security. And that's a big one. So when a business wants to put this through a security test, it's always better to start small with a very low security and then grow it from there. Rather than say, hey, we're going to completely shift all of our environments to CDEs and on this date, and you have to train everybody on it as well. It's better to just slowly incorporate it into your team and your workflows, which are more important than everything.
It also feels like a really good advice for everyone setting new resolutions for next year, with or without a CD involved. Like when you set your own stuff, start more, start confident, and after that, piece by piece will be more. Any other insights as advice?
I would say, as I mentioned before, try it out, because adding to what was mentioned right now, people tend to not know that some tool might be already implemented, or that some, I don't know, like keybinds or stuff like this. They would say, oh no, I'm sure that it's not implemented, or whatever. And I would say again, go try it, see for yourself, and you will like it. So
That's true. That's true. It's one of the things that I also hear all the time. It won't work. Did you try it? So yeah, go ahead.
I was going to just add on to that. I mean, I think that's sort of like key nowadays for everything, and especially for development environments. But it's like every day there's something new coming out that can make things go faster than the way that they worked yesterday. And so I think the NT pattern is the golden hammer, right? You get used to something, and the way that you get used to doing it is the way that you do it no matter what. But I think of that like, I don't know, if I was a lumberjack back in the day when the chainsaw was invented, if I just kept, sharpening my axe and and perfecting my swing without ever considering looking at a chainsaw, I mean, there'd just be no way to compete. And I think with these tools, I mean, you almost have to, I'm going to plug the word dabble, but you almost have to block time to dabble and to try these new things out. The risk is just too high. It's just changing so quickly.
Very, very good point there, and I would agree 100% to it. Even if we are reticent to try something new, we're like, oh, we don't like it. Technology moves so fast that we need to keep up with it. Going it backwards will just pull you down. Too much energy invested there. Okie dokie. As we are approaching the end of the call, wanted to see if Ives wanted to mention what we are building around here.
Yeah. So at CodeSandbox, we're building a CDE. It is something that we've been working on for quite a while, for I think the last 2-3 years. But CodeSandbox is already pretty old. We're 7 years old, and those past 7 years have really led up until this moment. When CodeSandbox started, our goal was to make it very easy for people to share running code with each other, to make it easy for people to get started with a new project, share it with other people, and for those people to then fork. And the fastest way that we could make that work at the time was by running all the code in the browser, because there would be no server costs and it would be very fast. And over time, we saw more and more people not just using it to share their running code, but they also wanted to do development on it. They wanted to build new projects on it. And one of the projects that started on CodeSandbox was Excalidraw, which is now a pretty popular open source project. However, there were also limitations attached to it because we were running things in the browser. And that's why we started rebuilding CodeSandbox, really, to allow you to do full development inside CodeSandbox, where we use a technology called Firecracker, which allows us to very quickly spin up VMs and clone VMs. And that is also one of those things that makes CodeSandbox unique. You can share a link even to a running environment that runs, for example, Go on Twitter or in your company. They can click fork and they will get an exact clone within 2 seconds of that environment that they can use to develop further on. And we now don't only use it to share code, we use it to do full development. And that is the new product that we've been building with CodeSandbox. And we've kept the same values in the sense of when you're working on a branch in CodeSandbox, you can share a link to the branch on Slack and anyone can open it within the company if they have access to the repo. And you don't have to be online for it. And that is a key benefit that I think a cloud development environment gives, similar to how Google Docs made that easier or Figma made that easier. And you get that with CodeSandbox too.
True. And literally a good experience explained how we build CodeSandbox in CodeSandbox is an article we have written by Alex Moldovan, one of our senior product engineers here. And probably you identified there both the struggles and the good side of it. The struggles in terms of deciding as a user yourself how you want something to be or how it should be, and even when you have a different bias there. Thanks for the details, Ives, and I'm literally curious for having it officially. This new one. Steve, want to add more details?
Yeah, sure. So about a month or two ago, we launched CodeSandbox Enterprise. This was primarily for businesses that wanted to learn more about how you can incorporate a CDE into your business and your workflows. Right now, we're running private betas in there, and we've got quite a few businesses already running successfully on it. If you are interested, do head over to the link. I'm sure it'll be posted in a second. And we can all have a quick chat about how your business can actually incorporate a CDE. And as we go into next year as well, in Q1, we'll be launching a much more self-serve approach to this as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But for the time being, if you want to learn more, just follow the link.
Yes, and we did have a really full of events release week, so a lot of materials from there to learn too. And yeah, that's a wrap for today. We do have a question, so we'll address it. But in the meanwhile, I do want to encourage everyone watching to join our community platform. We do have CodeSandbox.community, which is the top QR code. Maybe I should have done the different colors. Lessons learned. So the one on top is our community space where you can either join and give us feedback or report an issue, ask for help for other communities, community people, or even follow our events or announcements, things that we do. Always you can share your projects too. We run community spotlights each Friday in our social media. And on the second QR code, we do have the link for cosmbox.io/enterprise that you see it right now on the screen. Big thank you for our guests. And let's see the question that we have, I think, from Raul. Why do you guys think company believe it's too expensive, complex to start using a CDE? Who's brave enough to tackle it? Can be a personal opinion or can be an official opinion if you have it from the company.
I think when anybody looks at something that's new for the first time and sees a value, a dollar value against it, everything's expensive. It's difficult when new ideas come to the table for people to part ways with their hard-earned money for it. This is something we've taken into consideration with our self-serve approach next year, which is very much thinking of it in a way where you pay for what you use and nothing more. And when something like a CDE is brought to the table, there's also a huge history of the business investing lots and lots of money in cloud environments, development servers, people, MacBooks, everything in between. So it just naturally comes with a bias around expensive. But the reality is if you've got particular projects, that it doesn't have to be expensive. But it's something where you need to explore that as a team.
Yeah.
And really just understand what are you trying to achieve with a CDE rather than just buying a CDE because it's the cool new kid on the block.
Yes, also I think Steve's point earlier with the friction that appears on trying something new would apply here with complexity. Some people will be afraid that for a full team or a larger team will be too complex to be adopted almost instantly without affecting or impacting the work, which is something that you never know how it goes. Hopefully what we saw in most of the cases were only good sides were starting with it. Checking if anyone wants to add more stuff or we call it.
Adding to that, a bit of what was just mentioned, I think that the complexity also comes from that everything is set up already to use local environments, and there's a lot of things around it that people don't really know because it's organizational. Sorry, and I think that also it needs to be taken into account. But of course, everything can be tested out in small sections in proofs of concept and try it out on one team, try it out on another one. If it works, see the value, and then think on growing it up or implementing it everywhere.
I'll add one more comment to that. I think especially for like prototypes and greenfield projects that are starting. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. But Stephen mentioned this earlier, but um, the sunk costs that go into the thinking. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have like really good visibility too often about how much time goes into um, the, the process of setting up local environments and all of that stuff. And I think if you had some visibility into that, you know, the cost would not be a factor at all, because the cost of time is significantly more in most cases, for sure.
Oh yes, I agree. I agree. There, really, really good point there. And I think it's a good ending for our discussion today. Thanks so much for everyone that joined. We did went a bit over time, but it was a really good talk. So I hope you enjoyed it and appreciate it. If you have more questions, feel free to either join our community, CodeSandbox.community, and ask a question there, or reach us in any of the social medias we are, and we are more than happy to keep in touch. Thanks, Manel. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steven and Ives for joining me today on the panel. And keep in touch. We're going to have more of this coming. And for those celebrating, happy winter holidays. And look forward for a great 2024. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.